guys, welcome back. I'm Alexandra Harbushka, founder of Life with Herpes. I'm really excited to have our guest here today. We have Monique Darnell. And what I'm excited about, we're going to talk about her book here that she wrote, the STD Mental Health Handbook. What I'm excited about is we have someone that has education, that has background in mental health, in trauma, in therapy, in recovery, in support. So before we get to talking about Monique's book, I'm going to just let you know about her certificates, about her background. She has an amazing wealth of knowledge within the mental health. So she's a multi-state licensed professional counselor and author. After stepping into the role of motherhood, and I just found out, I was asking how old her little girl is, because reading the book, she talked about a story of her 2-year-old. And I was like, oh, maybe she has like an 8-year-old now. No, her daughter's 19. So that is definitely, you've been a mother way longer than I have. She discovered her passion for mental health. As a result of her discovery, she became a mental health professional. She holds a master's in mental health counseling from Capella University. For the last few years, Monique has spent countless hours advocating for the holistic needs of others. She's certified advanced alcohol and drug counselor, in Georgia, certified mental health counselor, also in Georgia, national certified counselor with the National Board of Counselors, licensed mental health counselor in Florida, master's level certified addiction professional in Florida, and licensed mental health counselor for the state of Texas. She is experienced in individual therapy, family therapy, substance counseling, some substance training, and life coaching. Her passion is to address the needs of cultures with a focus on the African-American community. So, as we can see, Monique has a lot of credentials here to talk. So welcome, Monique. I'm excited you're here.
Thank you. I am glad to be here.
Yes. So it's so interesting. You talked about the role of motherhood and how it absolutely transforms you. We all think that this is obviously not about motherhood, but it's about herpes. But we think we go into motherhood going to be one way or the other. And all of a sudden you have this, like, it's life-changing, and how it completely alters your path. So I love that motherhood brought you into the mental health space.
Yes, that and family.
Mm-hmm.
Like understanding family and understanding, I think I really thought about how I wanted to be a better mother for my daughter, communicate, learning, and all those things. And that has definitely been in this field, has definitely helped me be a great mother and a great person overall.
Yes, it brings out every aspect of your life. And that's something, I mean, motherhood and herpes is not the same by any means, but when we are diagnosed with herpes, we can make the choice to go down with it, go down with the ship, or we can make the choice to learn from it, to grow with it, and become a better version of ourselves. And that's the same thing with motherhood. It can take us, it opens up all of our wounds, and literally our heart is running out there. So, anyways, let's get going about this book here. So the STD Mental Handbook. So we were talking a little bit off air, and what I really like, I have lots of, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, I have lots of paper clips. I highlighted, I definitely went through it and took notes. And what I really embraced about the book that Monique has created that is different from other self-help books, or from other STD books, or from other herpes books. As you can hear, Monique has the credentials to talk about trauma, to talk about experiences, to talk about perception, feelings, and what it's like to be diagnosed from the mental health side. So do you want to elaborate a little bit on that, Monique?
Yes. I think I want to kind of take it back to the point where we was talking about the children as well. I had my daughter, and then I was diagnosed like 3 months after having her. And so it was a very, very, my life, scary as well. Very scary. I was kind of lost and confused, didn't know what to do. But all I could remember was looking at her like, okay, I still have to take care of her. I still have to pay bills. I still have to make do. So that was very traumatic for me, experiencing that and feeling those things as well in the physical form of my body, and then emotionally feeling a lot of different feelings, just was confused. And then mentally, it was just a lot of that going on, mixing in the pot, a cocktail or whatever you want to call it. A lot of things was going on about 20 years ago when I was diagnosed. So coming to terms with they all collaborate and they all help or don't help with conditions. I tried to really talk a little bit about not just STDs and not just herpes, but every condition a little bit. Talked about how one could cycle into another. So you can have depression, and because you're having depression, hidden depression, that can kind of cause some things to come out in the physical as well as having a condition can cause you to be depressed. So I wanted to really express a lot of that in the book, to talk about how they go together pretty much.
Something that I like to say is herpes brings out whatever you were dealing with. So when people go down a depression state, or they go down a self-loathing state, or they go down a rejection state, or they go down a nobody's going to date me, I always like to say that was already there. Like 2 weeks ago, that was there.
Mm-hmm.
And this just brought it to the forefront. Like this just made you deal with it.
Mm-hmm. It definitely amplified what was already within. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the things that I wrote in this book were a lot of the things I was experiencing, but it just made it a lot more like a highlighter. I was dealing with a lot of low self-esteem and insecurity. I'm Christian, so I was dealing with a lot of church hurt and things like that, and self-identity. Beating myself up, feeling like, oh, this is a crime, so that's why I got this. It was a lot of things going on at that time, but I was able to kind of change my perception and perspective about it. Definitely, I think I talked about it with dating and the dating part. If you're not ready to tell someone that you have herpes, you don't need to date, because that's the self-identity part. So yeah. I have a lot of that. And
you have a whole section on that here somewhere. I highlighted it. But yeah, if you can't, you have it right here. If you can't communicate, you have something that's drastically change that can drastically change another person's life, and you're not in the right state or mature enough to be sexually active. I mean, and there's so many of us, and you know more about this from your research and your education, but we disassociate. So many of us go into that fight, flight, or flight, and go, well, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to turn to substances, or I'm going to disassociate, and it's fine. I'll just go out. I'll just fake it till I make it. And like, the person didn't tell me that he had herpes or she had herpes. So why do I have to tell this person? And so, yeah, that's a really good point.
Yes. So a lot of this, it deals with inner work. And so because if you haven't done the work to understand yourself, to work on communicating, to work on knowing your needs, this any condition, I think with STD and herpes and things like that, and HIV, those things will bring about something that's been hidden within from childhood. It can come up from how you were treated. We're coming to information where now we're understanding your love language is because you didn't get something as a child, and so a lot of this is because we don't typically love ourselves the way we need to and the way we should. So we're oftentimes giving and doing. And now how I learned how to receive this was maybe I need to start screening people better. Could this be their rejection? Could it be because I don't need to be with them? Could this also cause me to work out more? Could this also cause me to treat myself better, eat better, go to sleep, take care of myself? Is this a way for me to look at this through these lenses to take care of myself better? And so it is important, your perception and your perspective in this and in everything. So yes.
You talk a lot about that. And you say, where was it? I don't know. But you say basically, well, your own personal story you talked about, but anyways, it's how you look at it. And are you going to continue to blame other people? Are you going to continue to say, well, this is what you did, da, 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 da. Or are you going to take responsibility and are you going to look at your emotions? Are you going to start to understand the trauma? Maybe you have psychological trauma. Maybe you have emotional trauma. And you talk a lot about that as well. You talk about the stigma and the shame associated with the stigma, the guilt associated with the stigma, the rejection associated with the stigma. And so what I'm hearing you say is these are all triggered from, like you said, your childhood or other needs that haven't been met in your life.
Yes, that is important. So I talk a lot about shame and guilt and the stigma because I believe that if you're not accepting yourself, you're walking through already shame and guilt. So you're not showing up as your authentic self, which puts stress on the body, which causes an outbreak, or causes shedding or causes whatever the case that you're going through. It could cause a lot.
Or something like if you're listening right now and you don't have herpes, don't think that you're cool. Like you're not out of the boat here. Yeah. Like you're in the same situation. It's just, it's going to manifest differently for your body.
Yes.
Something else.
Is, let's say you have autoimmune. You could have flare-ups with that or diabetes. I'm not sure, but I've learned to see that if you're in a area where you have not accepted yourself and the condition and how you feel about it and not saying that you approve of the situation. It's just that I'm no longer going back and forth with what should be or what shouldn't be. And I'm now taking the reins in my hands and making the life that I want to live. And who is for it, and who is not is not. And that's okay because I'm no longer trying to get something from other people that I can give myself.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's huge. We try to get the acceptance from somebody else opposed to accepting ourselves. I'm going to read something you put here in the book, and it's what is shame? And we're talking about chronic shame. Mm-hmm. You say here, shame can be defined as embarrassment or humiliation that arises in relation to the perception of having done something dishonorable, immoral, or improper, excuse me. Mm-hmm. So that right there is herpes. It's, I either was acting in a way that I shouldn't have been, and that can be different for everybody. And I'm not stating that in any judgment way. We talked about religion. I'm a Christian as well. And there's a lot of shame that comes with STDs or premarital sex or just sex in general as a Christian. So that's something that can be thrown into the embarrassment or the humiliation. We go straight to the scarlet letter type of mindset. It could be something that was improper or more, all these things. Basically, society we have said collectively, all of us, and we're all part of the stigma. I'm part of it. You're part of it. Everyone that's listening is part of it because we've all made a herpes joke. We've all made an STD joke and unknowing what we're doing. But we've all done it and it's disgusting, gross. Why? Ew, I would never sleep with anybody like that. I don't, ew, I know why you have it. Right. And so then suddenly you have it and your brain goes through this Okay, so you were telling me that this is disgusting, and now I have it. So now I'm disgusting. So I'm supposed to believe I'm disgusting, but I don't believe I'm disgusting. So there's that cognitive dissonance there, and you're trying to rewire it. So that's really where you come in and deal with trauma, with PTSD, with the stigma, with coping. And I love that you have a lot of credentials here with alcohol and with substance abuse, because that's a huge portion that falls into, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to numb it right now because I can't deal with it.
Yes. I oftentimes see the underlining when it comes to substance abuse. I deal with when it started, why you started using the substances, and what void is it filling. And then, talk a little bit about, the treatment and things like that. But in order to, I would say in this state, heal areas, we have to really truly be honest and where we want to go and how we got here. I see a lot of times in my life, I will have my answers. I will say them out loud and then go do something else. And then I would check myself. I'll say, somebody's lying. Somebody's not, I'm not being honest with myself about things where I want to be. And it's important to understand that in any type of healing and working through these things, working through your coping mechanisms, where do they start? What are they trying to feel? Are you trying to fill empty voids that you can actually work on yourself with a therapist or with someone that's a loved one or a life coach or whoever, but actually sitting down and taking the reins into your own hand instead of saying, this is what the world has given me and this is what I have to live by. And that's not true. Understanding, I don't have to live that way. I can do this. There's people out there like that, like me. And, I remember the first time, I hope she doesn't see this, but I remember the first time I told a particular person, I was like, oh, they have dating sites for people like us. And this person just blurted out, did not know what they were saying. I was like, oh my God, it's a whole pool of y'all. And I was like, what? I was like, I'm gonna let that slide because you don't really know. And you're only doing what the best you can. But I was like, yeah, it's more of us. And I believe that's why we have more, especially in the African American culture, because we are always trying to one up somebody. And I think that's humanity as well. But superiority is always trying to one up somebody so they can look down on people. So I think because we don't talk about it enough, it's spreading right now at this time of date. I don't know what the accurate number is, but it's spreading.
Yeah, it's because my personal opinion is, number one, most of us don't know we have it.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, it's shameful. It's disgusting. We don't know how to deal with this trauma, we'll call it, that has happened. So we're going to ignore it. So we're not educated in dealing with it. And three, we're just like, well, I don't know. Everyone has it. So why do I need to tell anybody? So it's unfortunate.
Yes. I always, I had a time in my life where I was just angry and frustrated. And I was also, I would say the information that I had at the time wasn't correct. That, you had a condom, so you were good. So necessarily really telling someone wasn't really like, oh, you need to tell someone with this because you used to have you practicing safe sex. But as I began to, as time changed, we're starting to find that we have herpes in your thighs. Yeah, people have it on their eye. And it's just like condoms are not always safe. So people are out here thinking they're doing a justice by just wearing condom. No, that's not true. So now before and when I learned, I was like, okay, I need to let people know, because I always had this fear of what if they can come back and sue me? Like, what if I can go to jail for this, like HIV? Like, if you don't tell people, what if that could be the case in certain states? And I don't know. I'd rather not. I don't look nice and orange, So I would rather I would rather tell people. And also I believe that releases that anxiety, that internal anxiety where if I'm safe or not, fight or flight is constant because I'm worried about if they're going to find out about this and will they leave or will they reject me?
Yeah, that rejection is, I think that's universal. When we're diagnosed, it's the fear of being unlovable.
Yes.
Which follows into the category of rejection. So either nobody's going to love me or I'll have to settle and for somebody that loves me, but I may not love that person.
Yes.
Or just like you talk about a lifestyle that has basically come to an end. I don't remember where you talked about that, but it was kind of in the beginning. Anyways, we think that, it's a depression that we may go through. That's like, I no longer can have a certain lifestyle, or I'm going to have to approach this differently, or I can't date anymore, or whatever. And that's all BS. That's all a belief in your mind that you've made up. And there is no, you don't need to do anything different in your life. I like what you said earlier is this gave you an opportunity for an assessment. Am I really with the right people? Am I really checking out the right people here? Am I doing an assessment on the right person? Am I just showing up because I think you're fun? Or am I really showing up because there's substance here, there's meat and potatoes here, there's something more that I want? And are you able to provide what is necessary to me? And I think that that's a really important thing that we forget about, or we don't realize when we are first diagnosed with herpes and we start dating. We think, okay, I'm going to go out there and we'll see if I'm accepted. We have flipped that switch and I'm going to go out and I'm going to see if you're worthy of being with me now.
Yes. Yes. That, so in the beginning, you're going through a lot of grieving and depression, my worth, and what does life look like now? And so you go through that state, and then you, if you work on yourself and you heal the areas, you start maturing and start seeing that it's not, I'm walking with the intentionality. And so I'm making sure that whoever is walking in my path is walking in my path because I have done the things that I need to do to have this person to walk in my path. And so that's because I understand now that healing and walking in a place of love instead of fear, I'm attracting the people that I need to attract because I'm not the problem. I'm not a disease. I'm not an issue. I'm more than a mother. I'm more than an author. I'm more than this condition. I make sure I choose the right words because I know my body is receiving certain things that I say. So if I say, with my mouth and I treat my body a different way, am I really being truthful to what I'm saying? So it causes me to check myself. It causes me to check how I present myself and how I show up to the world, because I had that reality. I was like, oh my God, people are rejecting me because I'm rejecting me. So the way you tell people, I promise you, if you go to them crying and boo-hoo, they're scared. They're scared because you're scared. So I don't know. I'm gonna leave. I don't want to deal with that. But if you were like, hey, I live in Atlanta. Half of Atlanta has this, and you can pick and choose how you want to do it. This is your right. If we ever become, intimate, this can be the case. But I have learned the more the more I create a safe environment for me. I also date people who also create a safe environment for me. So they're not pressuring me. Oh, are you? And because that put pressure on me. Therefore, I could cause issues in my stress in my body, which could cause issues for you. So the more I date people that are loving and supportive and also in love with me, the freer I feel and the safer I feel, and the less I have with outbreaks or anything.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. When you are calm about it and your body's calm and you're not going from a high anxiety state, you have less outbreaks. I would love for you to share the story because you kind of tapped on it. What you tell yourself is how people perceive you. What you're saying about yourself. If you can't accept that I have herpes, like if you can't say I have herpes without crying, it's not time for you to date. It's not go out there and fake it. It's you're not ready. You still need to process that trauma. But you used a great example about your daughter when you guys would go to your hometown and they'd call her the tornado.
Yeah.
At 2 years old. So if you share that story, I think it's such a perfect example of fueling ourselves or putting the intention of what we are out there. So will you share that story? I love that story.
Yes, and the words we say, so I just moved back to Fairhope, Alabama, and I think we were at the beach, and my daughter was 2 at the time, and she was doing the terrible twos, but I was not allowing it. I didn't call her no terrible twos. She was 2. We're not doing it. Even though sometimes I was like, I'm gonna let her run. I'm gonna let her run, and I'm gonna catch up with her later. So one time we was at the beach and somebody asked me what's her name, and I said her name's Camille, and I was like, oh my God, that was the name of the hurricane that came and tore up Mobile. And I don't even think my daughter even knew what a hurricane was at that time, but she was doing hurricane things. She was just going around spinning, and I guess she did a little bit, just kind of a little bit terrorizing little stuff and doing these things. And that's when I realized I would tell people, nope, her name is not Hurricane. Actually, her name means pure and unblemished. And so when I started calling her the name of, Camille, pure and unblemished, and telling her I love her, and changing the name that people were giving her and putting on her, she became much more calmer and full of love. And then she would run in Walmart ahead of me, but she wouldn't spin around and do those things. So yes, it's important how you identify. Your perception is important. I will tell my clients this all the time. It's a saying online, and it says life is 10% of what happened to you and 90% of how you respond. But I like to say 90% of how you perceive. How you perceive yourself, it is so important, because that's the way you show up. And if that's the way you show up, that's the way you behave. That's what you receive from other people. And that's what you get. So if you know you that girl, then you're going to get that girl treatment. So if even if you have something that's going on in your life, because nobody's perfect, we all have something going on. In relationships, you have to understand what you're willing to put up with and what you're willing to deal with and love through and grow through. So this is just another area that you can love and grow through. But at the end of the day, you may get 2 weeks out of a year. Come on. I had to tell myself, I have worked with clients that have had a lot of different conditions that I know they would trade places with me, because you can't see mine. I'm only having a little bit of issue, and they're out here with a bag on the outside, maybe with something going on, but they're living their best life. But I have to, it's perception, it's perspective and perception. And I made a decree to myself that I would not live a miserable life based on my own hand, not mine.
Absolutely. And I think if we all can remember just what you're talking about with your daughter, and you would never tell someone you love, like, oh, you're a menace, or you're ugly, or you're a bad person, or I mean, as mothers, I would never tell my son that or anything like that. And yet we have no problem telling ourselves that we're ugly, or you're disgusting, or all those things. And that really does play a role on your subconscious. Also, when you say those things about other people, your subconscious doesn't know if you're talking about yourself or talking about someone else. So it's very important when you're in this healing phase to be very, very conscious of what you're saying, what you're listening to, who you're talking to, what type of TV shows you're watching, what type of music you're listening to. Because that really does play a role in our healing journey. And I think that example of your daughter was perfect, because it is true. I've noticed that like my son is not shy at all, but every now and then he just doesn't want to say hi to someone and people go, "Oh, is your son shy?" And I'm like, "No, he's not shy." Because I don't want him to now think that he's shy because he's not.
Yes.
Right. I don't want him to develop that.
Yes. At an early age. Yes.
Yeah. No, he's not shy. He's just doesn't know you yet. And then, so things like just looking at it, if you are a parent, it does make it easier to conceptualize. If you're not a parent, you still can understand that what you say, your perception and how it shapes is going to be really important. Just like they say, like, hey, your animal, your dog or cat acts exactly how you do. Same thing, they pick up the same characteristics.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about, you have a section here on anger. And I think that that's a really important one to discuss, the anger emotion. Can you maybe discuss a little bit? Because we talk about, it's an emotion, it's arguing, yelling. It can show up in different ways. It can show up with misinterpreting situations and denial, becoming jealous, having aggression towards others. Like, I don't know about you, but I was so jealous for so many years that I had herpes and my friends that were not responsible in my perception of them did not.
Yes. I had anger at the time towards God because I think I was like 18 when I got kicked out of house for being like, was a little bit of a fighter. I had a little bit of a generation of fighting people in my family. And so, and when I got kicked out, I ended up getting on child's father. And so I don't really technically kind of know which one at the time, but all I know is that I think I would say either one who I was with at that time, somebody gave me. And I still technically kind of don't know. But I was so angry that I believe that I did everything that I need to do by the book. But this one time I ended up, getting kicked out the house, having a baby, believing somebody's going to do this and be here and being responsible on my own part of my actions. But I felt abandoned and betrayed, by God and by the belief systems that I was living by. And so I had a period of my life where I was angry at myself and I was angry at others. And I was a little bit ruthless with my dating at the time. I think I went through a phase of, everybody can catch these hands, F these hoes, all of that stuff. I was kind of like that. But at that time, like I said, again, I just thought I was doing good with condoms. And so, but when I got older, after 27, I started understanding more. But the anger turned into resentment, and it just was fueling by unprocessed, unprocessed or unmanaged experiences. So this experience was unmanaged. I didn't manage it well. I don't think anybody would, getting any kind of life-changing diagnosis, manage it well. And so understanding that even today, like maybe a couple hours ago, I was like, oh, I don't manage this well. I need to do this better. I'm realizing that everything we go through is like, I told myself at this big age of 38, I should know some things about myself. I should not be doing the things I used to do or doing temper tantrums or things like that. I need to know how to handle things, and I should, because nothing's really changed. Everything is still the same. It's just different in ways of how it's presented to you. But because I walk in love, I receive in love. And so it took some time to get there because I was so angry with the cards that I was dealt with. And I'm not going to, lie. I had a couple of months ago, I had a moment where I was like, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of being here and still going through the same process of, or being denied or rejected, even though I know that, oh, thank you. You did me a great job, great service. Thank you. But it's still uncomfortable. It still bothers you. You're still human. And it's like, okay, I would be perfect if this was not here,
Right.
So I'm still kind of frustrated with it, but it's no longer internalized to my worth of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a lot of hard work, anger, resentment, denial, all the parts of that grieving part. I had to grieve a little bit of that, and not in a way of I'm not accepting and I have to change. Like for one point in time, I was only dating people from the site until I realized I could date I'm worth somebody who doesn't have it. I think they call it mugles or something like that. I in the community group, I think they call them mugles for people who don't have herpes. And so I'm worth somebody who doesn't have that. And so for a period of time, I did not date people who had it. And that also let me know, okay, I can do this. I can do that. Oh, well, how about this? And how about that? So we are only we're the ones who limiting ourselves, not the world. Like they can say things, but it's up to us to live by it. We have a choice. You don't have to do these things. You can date or you can not date, but you should first start with learning you and loving you and accepting you and not allowing this condition to define you. My first book was very hard, and it talked about my current situation does not define my future. And so it talked a lot about that, really going back and forth, battling with this and who I am and my purpose in life with this now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a beautiful journey. I think what we don't realize when we're diagnosed with herpes, and I think this is a great place to kind of end with and wrap up with, because from all the things we've discussed is we can look at herpes as this happened to me and be angry and resentful and stay there. And it's okay to be there. You were there. I was there. I go back and look at pictures of myself and I had no color in my skin, like when people are gray or there's just no, like you look at someone walking down the street and they're not there. There's no pigmentation. There's no, like even your hair looks bad. Like it doesn't, and I was in that. I was in that self-loathing, that resentment, all the awful things you say about yourself and all the, I guess, the traumas you put on yourself and the emotional limits you put on yourself and all that. One of the things that this book does here with Monique, and one of the things that I definitely talk about is herpes didn't happen to you. It happened for you. Mm-hmm. In the beginning of this podcast, we talked about, I said, hey, whatever you're going through, if it's low self-esteem, if it's a mental health issue, if it's substance abuse, if it's some sort of shame, if it's some sort of guilt. I know you talked a little bit about binge eating in your book. That's something I dealt with as well. Mm-hmm. That was already there. Herpes didn't create it at all. Herpes was the answer to your prayers.
Yes.
It was the answer to your prayers. It was the answer to my prayers. I want to change. I don't know how to change. And God's like, all right, here you go. I'm going to make you change. Like,
yes,
we're here.
I do that. Could this be an opportunity for me to love myself more? Because the type of people I was dating, could this be like, should I value myself a little bit more so I can date better quality people? Should I eat better? Should I? Because you can't eat and do what you want you can, but if you want to have less outbreaks and if you love yourself, you'll treat yourself better.
Right.
This is what this condition does for you. It requires you to either you're going to go through in pain or you're going to do better to yourself. Which one do you want to learn?
Yeah. You have to wake up. So whenever you wake up is your journey. It could be in 2 days. It can be in 20 years.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. It's whenever you're ready, but you're going to have to work on yourself. And this book here is great. What would be one step, Monique? What would be like the most important step you would tell someone right now if they're in the resentment or the anger or the PTSD? Like, what's one thing, like a widget they could go home with that would say, this is where I'm going to start today?
So since I am an empath and an emotional being, I would say to cry, to just give yourself and parts of you that that's angry, that's sad, that's, frustrated. I say to kind of sit in it, not to a place of detriment, but in a place of to take care of yourself. You owe this to yourself. This has happened. To acknowledge that this is real. This is what my future will look like, and I have to do these things to change. But to cry and to, I don't know, like not so much grieve it in a way of I'm rejecting this or rejecting myself, but go through the emotions and know that it's okay to have these emotions. That's the first part. I think we rebel against it so much and we fight against it so much in the denial stage or wishing and hoping for change to happen. And I think the first step of loving yourself is the first part is loving yourself and going through those stages with crying and being present for yourself in these changes. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Well, in this book here, there are plenty of spots for notes. There's plenty of spots for resources. You get to hear your story, which I really enjoyed reading about, especially hearing about your daughter. And, but how, you just realize that you needed to make change, and you can decide if you want to live life miserably or you want to live life with joy and happiness and, go without outbreaks. You talk about you were outbreak free for an entire year. So,
2 years.
Oh, look at you. Look at that.
Move so changes change, but yeah, it's possible. The older, I think there's a condition, the older the condition, the less outbreaks you have. You still can have a life, a fulfilled life. It's based on how you view yourself and showing up in the world and how you view the world. I walk from a love place. So I'm no longer walking in fear. I don't walk in fear. Will you love me? Will you accept me? Will you? No, I'm already everything I need. So you're a bonus. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. I know when I get outbreaks too, or I get the prodrome, I go, okay, it's an opportunity for me not to go, it's okay. What is happening? Why, where am I at? I'm obviously creating this so where am I at with it? So yeah, that's where we want to get everybody is working on our emotional state. Yes. Okay, Monique, thank you for joining us on the Life with Herpes show. Thank you for being here. How can people reach you? And if you have a last comment, and how can people reach you?
I am online with, I think it is my name, Monique R. Darnell for Instagram. And then my business name is MRDCA Solutions. You can look me up that way online, or you could just type my name, Monique Darnell. My VP business girl, Sharon, has done a great job editing my books and also putting me on the platforms and things like that. So if you want to, you could just look my name up and I will come up. I am in Atlanta, Georgia as a therapist. I am licensed in Georgia, Florida, and Texas. So you can look me up.
And I'll have everything linked for you all in the show notes so you can find Monique. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. And it was a real pleasure. And I hope that everyone listening will buy your book and go through the workbook and enjoy it and highlight it and paperclip it like I did. Anyways.
And Barnes and Nobles and things like that. So yeah.
Yes, it's great. All right, friends. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next episode, and make sure you like, subscribe, thumbs up, whatever else you do. All right. I'll see you soon in the next episode. Bye, everybody.